You.
Okay, welcome to the special council meeting of February 16th, 2021. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved that the Township of Greater Madawaska Council calls to order the 16th, 2021 special council meeting at 3 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Got something off here. And is there any additions or to the agenda? Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved that the agenda of the special council meeting February 16, 2021 be approved as presented. All in favor? Carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. No delegations. 402 S1. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council approves bylaw 08-2021, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a lease agreement with Melissa Knopik to use the demise premises as defined in the agreement for the purpose of the Canada Post outlet. And furthermore, council delegates authority to make administrative changes to the lease provided the intent of the lease is not changed. Allison, do you want to speak to that before we vote?
So yes, Canada Post is reach out to township representatives about needing a space to relocate the post office. So the facilities manager and myself met with them, agreed to a space. Draft lease was requested by Canada Post to review prior to them accepting or considering the proposed space. They had no concerns or objections to the draft lease that was presented. It what was sent to the post is in front of council for approval. So the location, as you will see in the attached documents, is in the old council chambers, which is currently utilized by Calabogian Area Home Support. So they will get an office in the far corner, and they will use for meeting spaces. We have offered the council chamber if they need it for their monthly meetings, since they're willing to accommodate the post office.
Okay. Any questions of council? Councillor McPherson.
So the lease agreement, as was stated, is pretty standard. I noticed that the upfront costs are estimated to be $5,000. What I didn't see in the lease was a 1-year guarantee of like there are sections in there that refer to the ability to break the lease and how it can be discontinued, et cetera. But I didn't see anywhere that it indicated that they're locked in for a minimum of 1 year. Is that in there somewhere?
No, it is not. That's not something we normally put in our lease agreements.
Well, if we're going to spend $5,000 up front and then 2 months later they vacate the premises, now we've invested, we've got $1,200 in rent, but we've invested $5,000 in a space that is no longer earning any income. So personally, I can't agree with this the way it is. I think it needs to have some sort of guarantee that we will not invest taxpayer dollars in something that may not have a return on investment.
Well,
like I'm thinking worst case scenario, right?
Yep. And I agree with that. I completely understand. I think the difference is that this is Canada Post as opposed to a private individual. They're looking in the meeting, they indicated that they want a permanent location. So they were initially at a location prior to the Bogey General. They've only been at the Bogey General for a few years. And so they would like to, they don't want to move again. So I don't think that is a concern, but I completely understand the concerns that you have raised.
Yeah, and I would hope that they are going to remain there. But if for some reason they get in there and they just say, hey, this isn't working out, this isn't what we expected or anticipated, so we're going to find somewhere else to set up shop. Again, I realize it's Canada Post and they want a long-term solution, but I personally would prefer to see something. I would prefer to see them locked in for a minimum of 1 year. Like if they're looking for long-term, then that shouldn't be an issue for them to have that clause added in.
Okay, Councillor Perry?
What about the other leases, Allison, like the one with the Smiles lady, Tamitha, and the one with home support? Did we initially, when we put the lease together, have that clause? I don't think so, right?
No, we
Okay.
didn't.
Thank
We
you.
didn't, but as Glenn said, we didn't have upfront costs like we do in this lease.
Oh, correct. Thank you.
So Allison, can you go back on that?
Yep.
I think it's a very valid point. So,
Sorry,
Councillor Rigglehoff?
Oh, no, I'll defer to Allison. Let her go ahead first.
this is a time sensitive. They do need to be out of their current location by March 1st. So while I can go back to them, I will need to have a special council meeting this week to have this approved then by council so that we can proceed with the necessary renovations so that they're able to relocate in the time frame necessary.
Can we update the recommendation to address that right now? As opposed to having a special council meeting?
Could we vote on it?
So so the motion that is put forward, are you proposing that we put something to the effect of, and further that the lease agreement be amended to include a minimum time frame or?
A term of
Yes.
1 year.
Mhm. So I apologize, Mayor, I don't have the resolutions and you do, so if you could add something to that effect.
So under so it says authority to make administrative changes to the lease providing the intent, and I'll say, and add a minimum term of 1 year. Okay?
And excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I may then, so we know that time is of the essence with this. As we said, March 1st is almost here. This isn't going to slow down the process because it's Canada Post. They're not going anywhere else. There's nowhere else for them to go in Calabogie. So unless they buy something out of the blue, and then nothing's going to be ready by the end of the month. What we're proposing is a really good fit for the community. And there's no reason to delay or make any modifications from where I sit, which is across the street. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll add it, and if Allison runs into any challenges in getting this addendum through, we'll have to come back. But I don't think it'll be a problem from the conversations that we had. So, Councillor Perrier.
I've been dealing with Melissa since 7 months now that she's been looking for a location, and if it's down the wire, we're 2 weeks before March 1st. I understand what you're saying, Councillor McPherson, but the chances of them leaving for a year are slim to none.
And that's okay. Councillor Rigglehoff had suggested a vote on the original motion, and you know, that's certainly an option open to council. I just think that regardless of who it is, we as responsible council should be doing our due diligence. And just because it's a special account or whatever you want to call it, or business, you know, we bypass certain rules, well, okay, but you know, the bottom line is, as representatives of the residents of this municipality, it's our responsibility to be you know, to make sure that we're ensuring that taxpayers won't be out regardless of who the leasee is. It shouldn't matter, whether it's Canada Post or whether it's, Joe Blow from down the street. In the end, our due diligence should be we follow certain procedures. And Councillor Perrier, I've heard you, talk about different things in that respect previously. So I
Okay.
personally think that, if we have an amended, I agree. I don't think there's going to be an issue, and I would hope there wouldn't be an issue. But I just think that it's important that we, as elective representatives, do our, ensure that we protect the finances of this municipality in whatever way is appropriate, regardless of who the individual or organization is that's involved.
Well, I think we can add this additional item to it. The construction, I was in there on the way. The office is already ready to move in for home support. There's only one more wall to build. So it's not going to slow down the construction. And if Allison runs into any challenge on this, we'll have a quick Zoom meeting on it. But it should, I don't see it slowing down the process. Do you, Allison?
Not at all.
Okay. So I'm going to add it on, and we'll vote on that. So moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigelhoff. The council approves bylaw 08/2021 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a lease agreement with Melissa Knopick and use the demise premises as defined in the agreement for the purpose of a Canada Post outlet, and add a minimum term of 1 year to the lease. And furthermore, that council delegates authority to make administrative changes to the lease, provided the intent of the lease is not changed. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Public Works 502 S1 bicycle lanes in Calabogie. So do you want to speak to this, Steve?
So I done some research on that, and even talking with the county, they really strongly advised us to keep this to a paved shoulder. It just gets into a whole other situation if we turn this into a bicycle lane or even a walking lane and we have to sign it. There's different rules to minimum maintenance standards, and if we designate it to something, but if we leave it to a paved shoulder, they get the same use out of it. And that's my recommendation, that we do that.
Councillor Rigelhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Steve, then there would at least be a painted white line, as you said, you're referring to a shoulder, so it'll be marked by a white line, I'm assuming, right?
Yep, that's all in next year's budget for line painting, the yellow line and the white line on Mill Street.
Okay, well, if it's, keep us out of trouble, as long as there's something there anyway, because the traffic is picking up, and especially now with Oella Cafe in the middle of it all now.
Yeah.
And come this spring and summer, with the increased traffic that we are, benefiting from, there will be more pedestrians out there, and the ATVs, who do not, and that's the other thing, ATVs are supposed to travel at half the posted sign limit, which they don't. Because I checked that out with the county when this was all coming through last year, and if it's 60 kilometers on, say like out here on 508 in the village, an ATV is supposed to travel at 30 kilometers per hour. We have the one sign on Francis out my window here, which is a 40 kilometer zone, and we have a posted ATV speed limit sign of 20 kilometers that's been there for 10 years or more. So I think if we don't want to designate anything for the pedestrians on Mill Street, I think we should be designating to get the posted speed limits for the ATVs so they slow down.
Sure, I can look into that.
So I think that might be part of the sign bylaw. And then we do have the traffic, the speed sign, or speed and radar sign that is coming. And if there is an issue, we can have it posted there and communicate the results to the OPP so that they can monitor the situation.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I'll read the resolution moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff, that council directs staff to not designate bicycle lanes within the township. All in favor? Carried. And tender PWO 121 tandem, moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council award tender PWO 2021 tandem cab and chassis with dump body and sand salt spreader to Rush Truck Center for $262,859. And there was a report on this. Is there any questions of council? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. And tender PWO 2021, moved by Councillor Perry, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council award tender PWO 2021 roll-off truck with hoist to Rush Truck Center for $213,555. Question of council. Councillor McPherson.
So Steve, just a couple general questions. So first off, did we overestimate on the roll-off truck?
Well, that was what was in the asset management plan, but the last time they bought a truck and trailer, and this time we're replacing the truck because the trailer would have been way over budget. So we're just purchasing the truck for this round, and we'll keep the
Okay.
trailer for a few more. But that's what
So-
was in the asset.
All right, so that original estimate was likely anticipating maybe having the trailer included as part of that
The
purchase.
trailer and the old truck actually had a high ab crane on it that we're not replacing either, so it would have had higher costs.
Okay, second part of the question then, I noticed that both of these are going to the same supplier. Do you think we benefited from having two tenders at the same time that they were able to bid on and maybe gave us some preferential pricing at all?
I can't say for sure, but they've built a lot of our trucks too in the past, so they do good work. and-
So repeat business and,
Yeah,
Would Francis be able to bid on the roll-off truck?
they could have, yeah, if they wanted to, yeah. I don't know why they didn't, but
Okay.
they never did.
Okay, thanks. Did you have a question, Councillor Rigglehoff?
No, it got covered. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, read that again. Move by Councillor Perrier, second by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council award tender PWO 2021 roll-off truck with hoist to Rush Truck Center for $213,555. All in favor? Carried. Development Service Assistant. Oh, Councillor Frost. You're on mute.
Just a question. It was suggested that snow tires be bought for this truck, the roll-off truck, out of the $51,000 difference. The rest goes back into where, Allison?
So we'll only take out the amount that we need from our reserve, instead of the total amount that was budgeted. So it'll just remain in the reserve.
Thank you.
Sorry, this is a debenture, I believe, so that we'll only get a debenture for the amount that we need.
Okay, so Development Service Assistant, I'll turn this over to Mr. Desjardins.
Thank you. Yeah, the title of this report should have been a planning and development technician, just the way the report got saved. It's a recommendation to pursue a new position in the township office. I included some of the rationale for doing this in my report. It primarily relates to a retirement, which is upcoming in 2021. And that support person who helps me on a daily basis will be leaving, which will leave me further shorthanded. And it also relates to the municipal modernization review that we've recently conducted. It had some strong language for growth and planning and development in that report. I say in my report to council that I'm not able to predict the future, but with those two items, the retirement and the potential for growth coming in the near future, this is my recommendation.
So the report was pretty explanatory, but I'll open this up to questions from council. As far as the financial part of it, we're going to cover, how all this will be paid for in the report later on that Allison or Renee will be doing. So any questions of council? Seeing none, I'll read, Councillor McPherson.
I was just going to say, Mayor, like from my perspective, I have no issue with what's here. The fact that it's going to be covered again on a later agenda item, I think that's where we'll have the real discussion associated with this. But in general, I certainly have no issue with what I see in this.
I wonder if maybe I'll postpone reading this resolution until after we go through the other financial component. If that's fine with council, I'm going to defer that, okay? Thank you. So we move to Finance and Administration, appointment of Mississippi Valley Conservation. Who's going to speak to this?
I can speak to this.
Okay.
So the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority has contacted the municipality to advise that the current representative, Gary McAvoy, is unable to represent the municipality as he is not a resident of the township. Further to that, they have advised that the replacement needs to be a member of council or would need to apply for approval to the Minister of Environment, Parks and Conservation. There's correspondence that is attached to the report from the Conservation Authority outlining in further detail what I've just relayed to council. And we do need to appoint someone. If council wishes, we can table this until March if someone wants to give consideration being appointed. Or if there's someone that's willing to put their name forward today, then we can move forward with that.
Did you say that it has to be a council member?
Or we have to apply we have to ask a permission from the Minister of Environment that it not be a representative of council.
Okay. So how many meetings would there be per year, do you know?
So they meet on average 2 to 4 times per year.
Okay. And is there anyone willing to take on this position? Okay, I'm seeing none, so
would council, so there is a motion to appoint someone. Now, if council wishes, we can see if we can, but they may come back and say no, because the Conservation Authority is at their 70%, so they can't go further than that. So they may come back and say, no, you have someone from council. So if council wishes, I can work with the Conservation Authority to submit an application.
I think maybe that seeing we don't really have interest, from any member of council, perhaps we could reach out for them and see if we can have a resident. There is one resident that has joined the OPG and he's doing a lot of work on the watershed under that, and maybe interested in taking this on. I haven't spoke to the individual about it, but you know, it might be a good fit if they would allow it. And if not, can it be a staff person?
Okay,
Okay, so we'll defer this or table it, I guess, Allison?
we'll table it for now. Or sorry, it's defer, but that's fine.
Okay, proposed council donations. Renee?
Yeah, so this is this report, there's as attached in this report, there's a list of donations that we usually provide to local organizations. This has been a report that comes to council annually, provided a list, and then the list is up for review if council would choose to change any. Usually, I believe we process the payments once approved. This year, we're looking at should you approve this list or make adjustments, I would have contact with the organizations just to ensure that the funds are required this year, and then do a bit of a review prior to preparing payment. So otherwise, this is a list. Should you approve, we would proceed with this process.
Okay, Councillor Perrier?
I don't see the food bank on there, Renee. Is there a reason for that? The food bank was on there last year. Maybe in my concussion has caused me to become blind, but I don't see it on there.
I'll look at it. I haven't I didn't see it, but it may have been adjustment afterwards that wasn't part of the list. So we could always adjust to say if to adjust to add the food bank if you wish to do so.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll approve this list, or the resolution will be to approve. Is there a resolution on this?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's on the other side. So we'll go ahead with this list and ask for the next council meeting that you bring back on the food bank. Okay.
Sounds
Moved
good.
by Councillor. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council approved the 2021 council donations as presented by staff, and furthermore direct the treasurer to inform and prepare payments for the organizations. All in favor? Carried.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
just as a side note to that, number one, we do have a little bit of room left here yet. There's still $275 that was budgeted that we haven't used. And I guess the other note, Councillor Perrier, if this is accurate, it shows us the donations made for the last 3 years, and the one for this year, the list for this year is identical to last year's. So if food bank was on last year, it was either handled separately, or it wasn't there, or it's worded somehow differently on this list.
I'm just wondering if there was a challenge because our budget was 3,500 and the list only came to 3,325. So I think that's going to require a little analysis on that. Councillor Perrier.
As my 60-some-year-old brain and memory works pretty good, and I do recall that last year I suggested, why was Calabogie Home Support getting more money than the food bank when Calabogie Home Support is provincially funded to the tune of $42,000 per year, whereas the food bank wasn't. And that's why it caught my eye when I was my documentation yesterday. The food bank was there. There was a food bank, there was Calabogie Home Support, and Renfrew. So it was on the list, and I still have my documentation home, but I know it's on the list.
So I
I
want to
did
pick in here.
argue that last year. Sorry, Renee.
Sorry, I want to pipe in here. So I did, I just pulled up last year's and you're correct. Somehow it was missed this year. It was a food bank donation for $300. If you would like to proceed, I could just adjust based on that if council wishes.
Okay, so we'll add food bank $300 to the list, which will make it $36.25. And so I'll read the resolution to proceed with the amount of $36.25. Is council fine with that? Councillor Rigglehoff.
Yeah, just quickly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand we give donations outside of our township, CHEO and other places like that that have to exist where they are. But just looking at the bottom here at the Royal Canadian Legion in Northbrook, Northbrook's not in our township, is it?
No, but it services ratepayers of our township.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, that's excellent then. Thank you.
So, I'm going to, for this resolution, I'll read the resolution again. Moved by Councillor Perry, is seconded by Councillor Rick. The council approved the 2021 council donations as presented by staff in the amount of $3,625. Moved by Councillor Perry, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council approved the 2021 council donations as presented by staff in the amount of $3,625, and furthermore direct the treasurer to inform and prepare payment for the organizations. All in favor? Carried. And intake 1 on modernization funding program. Allison, are you speaking to that?
No, actually Renee will be speaking.
Oh,
on that.
Renee, sorry.
So as council knows, back in 2019, we received some municipal modernization program funding of $607,697. Over the last few years, we've been allocating some portions. And in our current budget that we just passed, we had other portions of the modernization funding utilized or allocated. So the purpose of allocating it this way was just to be a bit more strategic and not expend it all in one take. We've been recently notified that there's an intake 2 in funding. However, to be eligible for the intake, you have to have allocated or spent the funds from intake 1 to proceed. We do have some projects that would qualify to expend the funds in order to qualify for additional funding. So there's a little list provided in here that demonstrates the approved projects, that these are projects that council has approved. And then section 2, which is proposed projects to expend the funds and allocate it appropriately. You'll see in section 1, there are projects that were approved through the budget process that may not be required, such as the Black Donald Waste site. So there's a bit of a, some are not essential, others reevaluate priorities, and there's some that we have applied for other grants to proceed with. The proposed projects include the grant, the Rural Economic Development Program grant that we've applied for the Kickstarting Economic Development and Tourism. We're required to pay 50% of the cost. That's the 150. There's the asset management plan and software has come in a quote a bit higher, has not been awarded yet, but these funds could be expended this way. We've recently received a notification regarding the Eagles Nest parking, the grant that we applied for that. They ended up not qualifying the parking lot. Therefore, we could proceed with completing the parking lot through the modernization funding. And then there is currently in the capital budget, the expansion and renovations for the fire hall and public works. Therefore, if we proceeded this way and allocated the funds such as presented here, we would qualify to apply for intake 2 of the modernization funding. Any questions?
Okay, and Renee, if, so this list, so we would pass the council resolution and that shows that we mean to spend the money on this, but if something comes up that we get a grant or we don't get the RED grant for economic development, we would be able to substitute something else in its place.
There are a lot, yeah, there are a lot of projects either in 2020 or currently in 2021 that are eligible for the modernization funding. The funding is really open to use to modernize anything, mostly anything in the township. Yeah.
Okay, so my question was, when we make a resolution on the proposed, we're able to bring it back and substitute something else with a reasoning for doing it. Such as,
I can't see an issue with that. It's still allocated. Yeah, it's still allocated as per the requirement. And if we were to run into an issue where we couldn't proceed with something, we would still be allocating the funds elsewhere.
okay, any questions?
Basically, as of today, we're demonstrating that the funds are allocated with understanding that if we're not successful on various projects, that we would bring forward a further resolution to council for allocating the funds.
So this is just making us eligible to submit a grant application.
It's supporting our stance that all the funds have been allocated. In the event the province does ask for documentation, we'll be able to demonstrate that the funds are allocated at this point in time.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councilor McPherson?
So my old bugaboo, I look at the proposed projects and the project rationale, and I worry so much this is going to come back to haunt us. And maybe when I'm not on council, it won't matter anymore. But for right now, I get real concerned about wording like, so we can provide this service to tourists and residents safely. What service are we providing? Who owns Eagle's Nest Trails?
The majority of it is Ministry of Natural Resources, and then it goes up at the far end of it, it goes into Calabogie Peaks property.
Right. So it's not the responsibility of the Township of Greater Madawaska, but as we all know, when you insert yourself into something, you establish a foundation for obligation. And so we're talking about providing services. My personal opinion is we should not be in the business of providing services for these trails. I know that I'll get shouted down, but I'm so concerned that even if this initial funding is available and it isn't going to cost the taxpayers anything, once we've established and set that precedent, then on the years ahead, there's going to be cost incurred associated with this. I just have to to state that I realize that this is going to proceed whether I do want people to be able to be safe when they're doing their recreational activities. I'm just concerned about taxpayer dollars eventually ending up having to fund or support this with no potential revenue coming from it.
Councilor Perrier.
I think Councilor McPherson raises a good point. It's great to have the grant money to build something, but there's always a cost of ownership. So I agree with Councilor McPherson. Do we know what those costs would be?
Okay,
Just a point.
well, I guess it's a gravel parking lot, so once the parking lot is built, I can't see the cost being that great. You know, it's not like a heavily traveled road. You put in a park at low speed. So I don't see the cost going forward as being huge. But as far as, I don't know if it's a service, but if safety is a service, that is what we're trying to provide, you know, to our ratepayers. And what is the alternative? Is the alternative to do nothing and allow it to be the way it has been, you know, for the last couple of years, especially last year? And the councillors and myself in Ward 1, our phones are pretty busy on the weekend with complaints about this and what are we going to do about it, and that residents are fearing for their life, you know, that there's been jackknifed trailers and you know, a lot of near mishaps up there. So and then the other thing is, I believe it is an economic development driver, like to get all these tourists in town. Maybe a lot of our residents don't want them, but you know, a lot of our businesses, the restaurants around here and that, they certainly want that and are able to keep functioning because of the volume of traffic that comes in, and at the end of their hike they stop in for a meal or a beverage or whatever. So I think if we were starting economic development for the ground, we'd say, well, can we develop something up there? So anyway, Councillor Perrier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with you, and you raise a good in that we really are providing safety to our own constituents, because it is Councillor Rigelhoff, yourself, and myself have fielded numerous calls since the first shutdown, and it is a zoo. So, and I think if I can say, Councillor Rigelhoff probably slept there overnight on many occasions because he was up there almost every weekend. So yeah, you raise a good point, Brian.
So if I may, there is, so when speaking with, this is going back a few months ago, with the company or the gentleman that does our bylaw enforcement, he has advised that there's ways to ensure that this does not cost the municipality funds going forward. There's apps that can be put in place so that people do pay for parking. That doesn't actually require any staff time. And then upon representatives from MLES visiting the site, they'll know who is paid and who is not, and can fine accordingly to those who have not. So there is options and opportunities to look for ways that this endeavor will not cost the ratepayers tax dollars in the future.
So Councillor McPherson.
So I'll just make a couple points. First of all, I realize that the motion that's involved here right now that we're currently dealing with doesn't commit to this being done. So I just want to make that clear. I'm just concerned about the future. So a couple of points to make. Number one, there is no parking lot there right now. So I know you said it's a gravel parking lot. If all you're planning on doing is paving that little tiny area, it'll hold about 10 cars. So obviously, if we're talking about a parking lot, I'm assuming we're talking about a real parking lot that will actually contain a sizable number of cars. Otherwise there's no point. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned previously about the possibility of eliminating parking on the highway because there is a parking lot, and if the parking lot is full, you don't allow any more people to go up. Well, you have to build an awful big parking lot. So I'm just not sure how that's going to work. So the bottom line is it's not a matter of just paving over the gravel parking lot. Something much larger would need to be established if you're going to get cars off the highway. And so, you know, you said, what should we do about it? Well, this is a ministry asset. They should be doing something as opposed to having signs posted saying, here's a trail. Like there's got to be something. You know, we get screwed every way you turn from all these different ministries, including what I want to say, the Ministry of Natural Resources. I think it has, whoever has the dams. you know, like we know that we don't get appropriate funding in lieu of taxes for properties at the dam sites and that sort of thing. And this is just one more ministry that is impacting our municipality and not shouldering their share of responsibility.
Councillor
If I
Ray-
may-
I think we should be pursuing that.
Councillor Rigglehoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor McPherson, yeah, you might be missing the fact that it's not an M&R signed trail. It's a Township of Greater Madawaska signed trail. We've taken ownership by posting it as a trail for people to come and use. But as you say, it's not on our land, but the ministry did not have us effect these signs or anything. We've done that as a whatever council that was that Allison may know. I don't know if it was 10 years ago or when it was, but anyway, but we've done that. So we're promoting it in conjunction with Calabogie Peaks, where they pay for the trail maps. And we did the one-time expenditure of putting a few signs up. Now we're just
All right,
trying
thank you
to
for that
control the
clarification.
safety. I'm sorry?
Thank you for that clarification.
No, so that's where it comes in, and it comes down to safety and the near misses. We've certainly witnessed. I've seen a couple of mirrors come off with the county plow trucks, even, you know, and that's just a mirror. But someone opening the door at that time, well, we'd be having more serious issues to be dealing with, and we'd be on the front page of the news.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think we would, but having said that, safety is important, agreed, but this issue is not going to go away by building a parking lot. And, you know, no matter how you look at it, and I know Mayor mentioned about the green spaces in the cities and how they have, you know, if the parking lot's full, you can't, but that's in the cities where everything is policed and so on and so forth. We're a rural municipality. And so you can put up all the signs that you want. And yes, you can call in the police and the bylaw officers and people are going to get ticketed, but the issue will not go away. The safety may be improved slightly, but it's the safety element is not going to go away because there will still be people park on that highway no matter what you do, as well as the parking lot is on the opposite side of the highway from the trails. So you're always going to have safety issues. Yes, we should try and mitigate those if we can, but again, I'm just, I don't want to draw this out. I'm just concerned about future expenditures.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the resolution because if we're okay with the allocation and we recognize that if something comes up, we'll change it. Once we are ready to move forward with the parking lot, it'll be coming back to council for further review and examination. Now, the only thing that I might suggest, if there's a lot of feelings out there, is that we could form a little group that would work on this parking lot. And if any councillors want to be on that to investigate, you know, or throw ideas on what we could do better, I think we have to do something. If one idea was the parking lot, if there are other ideas, we certainly would love to get the input from any member of council or an offer to sit on a committee and we can explore it further. I know Luke is taking a lead on this right now and has been dealing with the M&R. So if we should be doing something different, maybe we should be joining forces through a committee and looking at it more in depth. But I'm going to just move on with this so we can get this resolution passed. So I'll read it again. Moved by Councillor Perrier, second by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council approves the allocation of Intake 1 Municipal Modernization Program funding. All in favor? Carried. And grant funding update.
This memo is to provide council with an update on the grant funding. Seeing we've applied for quite a few grants most recently and received funds. We just wanted to update council. As As pointed out in the last report, the Eagles Nest parking lot did not qualify the ICIP COVID-19 resilience stream. We were notified, given 3 days to submit a new application. Therefore, we have submitted an application for the Ginza recreational facility to resurface the ice pad and improve lighting, portable activity mats, these types of things. This is intended to promote active living while maintaining physical distancing. We believe this may qualify more or be more in line with the ICIP COVID-19 resilience stream. Yeah, so we were unable to come to council given the short period of time, but this is the application we proceeded with. The table, the first table in this memo provides you a bit of an update on the pending grant applications. So as you could see, I crossed out the Eagles Nest and added the Ginza recreational facility. The LED signs are we're still waiting for an answer on that. The Kickstart Economic Development and Tourism, the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan, as well as the Asset Management Review. These are all pending grant applications, adding up to $510,000. Also, we have 2 COVID-19 Safe Restart funding. So they're funding meant for operational expenses or loss in revenue. We are still working on expending the first portion, the $166,700 of funds, and we've recently received an additional $33,000 to assist in offsetting the expenses or loss in revenue going into 2021. So therefore, we have the COVID-19 operating fund, we have $101,000 remaining.
Okay, and that was the information item. Any questions to council? Councilor McPherson.
Yeah, just on the second table, Renee, funds 2020 spent / committed 97,775. Is this a specific item, or is it just odds and ends here and there to cover different aspects of COVID-19 related expenditures?
The larger portion would be the approved contract for the $70,000 for the electronic meeting or the setup we would get there. So that's the bigger portion. The remaining would be odds and ends. That's right. Anything from maintenance and additional cleaning to adding plexiglass.
And is there a deadline for utilizing these funds?
Currently, there is not. What we were asked with the first portion was to put it into, I guess both portions, I believe the other one came late 2020, is to put into a reserve for 2021 and use it the same way. And so currently there's no reporting piece on it. It's just to keep the funds available for operational needs.
There were, we did not get any of the COVID funding that say the county got and so on. So there was funding come out in 2020 that was strictly for operational COVID matters, and whatever wasn't spent had to be sent back at the end of the year. But all the Safe Restart funding was able to be carried over into the next year. So that's why we're able to carry over that 68 and the additional 33 that we got. If we had received that under the other funding, if we didn't spend it, we would have had to send it back. Okay, any further questions? So we'll move on to proposed organization chart 902S5. Allison?
So as council will see attached to the report is the original organizational chart as well as the proposed, and as alluded to earlier in the meeting, there's a new position of the planning and development technician, and that the deputy clerk replaces the administrative assistant position and takes a more active role in any number of items, including grants, including attendance at council meetings. It's outlined quite thoroughly in the report as to what this role will entail, as well as the job description. There is, this is an attempt to align everyone's tasks or roles so that you don't go to one staff to do part of a post and then to someone else to finish the job. It's happening under the current organizational chart. So this is just a revamp, and I recognize based on the financials that are proposed or that are attached, it does indicate that there will be a cost with this. But as the planner alluded to, reports from Concepts and the Lake suggest that there's significant growth headed our way with the expansion of 417. And we currently do not have any excess capacity available on any. We do need to provide some support to both our planner as well as our fire chief and chief building official, which they don't currently have, or they have in a very limited capacity. With additional development that in addition to what we've already seen in the last few years, this is very much needed. So I don't know if there's any further questions or any questions, sorry, of council, but there is a job description for the deputy clerk that is attached, and I think that's, if there's any further questions, then please.
So I guess before I open up to council, I just wanted to mention that in the planning side, and so Luke has put forward the job description of that area. I think, or one of the things that I've been hoping for over the last couple of years, and it's becoming, I think, more and more important with the influx of building that we're seeing, is that time is available for the planner to work on a plan for the future and move away from being reactionary. We have to start planning and laying out, you know, do we want commercial areas designated as commercial property within the township, and get this, because what I certainly can see is that we're seeing little bungalows going up along a stretch that it would be prime commercial property. And without a plan, all these things happen, and then we have to accept, you know, what happened because we didn't have a plan in place that restricted areas to commercial or to residential or whatever. And once you get that, then you also get complaints always because they're sitting beside a commercial area, or they build a house, you know, or commercial bills beside, and you get complaints from them, rural bills beside, and you get complaints. So we need time to do a master plan and bring that back to council, you know, and work on that, and, you know, have a vision for how we want our municipality to turn out. And if we're racing all the time and not have time for proper planning, we're going to have to put with what we end up getting, and that'll be developers deciding for us. And the other big thing that we've hit and is the building at the Peaks. When that file, we had the county looking after it, it's back on the planner's desk now, and it can be almost all consuming. You know, it's going to end up to be 300 to 400 homes, but when that file gets going, it takes such an extraordinary amount of time, you know, to manage that file. So we have to recognize that these things are there. We're enjoying the, you know, last year, $15 million of building growth as opposed to regular years of 10. So, and we'll benefit from the taxes from that, but there's a pile of more work goes into all these things. So I'm very much in favor of our staff having some time to do proper planning as well as running to just get the files out of the office. So I'm going to open it up to council. Councillor Frost.
I agree. We should be looking to the future with the expansion of the 4-lane highway up to the Calabogie turnoff is going to create an influx of people that we haven't seen in our lifetimes. This is not just a little, maybe 10 or 12. We're going to be seeing hundreds of people wanting to travel to the city from our Calabogie area. So we best be planning for services for these people. And it's going to take a pile of work in the planning department to figure this out. And I agree fully that we should have another person there to assist them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor McPherson.
Just for clarification, Allison, under background, it says under the current organizational chart, it is clear to what managers of the various departments are responsible for. And then there is confusion regarding who does what for support staff. I'm not sure what the message is in that particular statement. Could you just clarify that for me?
Yep, so so under the current situation, we have one person who posts to Facebook and someone else who posts to the website. Because there's just two different skill sets that one's not comfortable with the current website, one's not comfortable with Facebook. So that's just one example of many. Civic addressing that goes through various departments, not really needed. So it's just to streamline that so that everyone is able to focus on their department with priority. So one example operation or would be the posting of communication is that it would be developed by one person and posted to also by one individual.
All right, thank you. So just as I read through this report, again, in general, I didn't have any concerns about it, but there are some things that sort of jumped out at me, and I think that I'm a little concerned that in some ways we might be skewing the numbers just a little bit. So starting with planning and development, there's a table that's on page 3, and it's got the years from 2016 to 2020. If we drop off 2016, and Mayor, first of all, as you can see here, the building permits are not 10 million. In 2017, it was almost 12, over 14 in 2018, over 12 in 2019. So no, there hasn't been that exponential growth over the last, 5 years. If you throw 2016 into the mix, all of a sudden the numbers get terribly skewed because 2016 was an exceptionally low year compared to the next 5. When I see something like this, we should have had 2014 and 2015 included in the table as well. Because what I don't know was 2015, for example, a good year, and 2016 just happened to be a bad year. So when we include that one bad year in this table, it does make it look like building permits have doubled almost in the last 6 years. But I don't know that, because if I got rid of 2016 and just looked at 2017, they haven't almost doubled. It's nowhere near it. And so I just think that there's not enough information provided here, or the context of the information provided just can lead to a misunderstanding. So that was the first thing that sort of jumped out at me here. The other thing, I just need clarification, because when I read up above, so this is on page, still on page 3, on the bottom of the page where we talk about public works. So in all the preamble that I read and so on and so forth, knowing the number of machine operators, like I'll be the first to admit that I don't know if somebody were to say, how many staff do we have? I have no idea, because it's not something that I feel it's important for me to memorize. But when I look here, we see a prior scenario that says 6 machine operators, current scenario 6 machine operators, proposed 6 machine operators. But what I read up above was that the current contract machine operator would be converted into a full-time or a permanent position, and then a new contract machine operator would be hired.
So I will try to
So,
address this as best I can, recognizing we are in open. So the supervisor used to be the foreman. And
Right.
when capacity, and even in the capacity of supervisor, when there was a manager here, that position did maintenance in Ward 3. So, and also during that transition, another staff member has been off on sick leave. So we hired one person on two people, sorry, on contracts to backfill the 2 positions that are vacant in Griffith area. So if we move forward to this permanent setup and we don't see the supervisor providing winter maintenance, I need to replace that position. So that's to transition then from a contract to a full-time position.
all right. So what you're saying is, in the end, it'll all balance out.
Right.
What about the contract position for capital projects?
So that is to assist. So this is something that we did previously have, and it just does provide some breathing room to our public works staff, that if they do want to take summer holidays or utilize their overtime, that they have the opportunity, because we have that staff to provide that back. So that
Okay, and that person is not in these numbers.
the person is under the proposed.
Right, but in that table that you've got, where you've got prior, current, and proposed, the numbers don't change. So where's the person?
So the person's under the proposed. So it's that 0.5 operator on contract.
So the capital projects person is
Is
actually a machine operator.
Yes.
Okay, that's what confusion was, because I saw a reference to a capital projects contract position, and then I saw a reference to a machine operator contract position, and in my mind, they were separate. What
No.
you're saying is they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good. All right, one more. So I think that answers my final question then. Under the summary, where you identified the different roles, my question was, okay, where's the capital works contract position? But you've just answered that question. All right. Okay, one more note. Let's see. So I'm just looking at the table on page 7. Finance and administration stays the same. Planning and development increases by 1. Fire department stays the same. Public works goes down by 0.5, and facilities goes down by 0.5. So that's how, all right. Yeah, I was just trying to wrap my head around how this table matches to all of the discussion above. I'm still not sure that I can do that, but I'll trust that that the rest of you know what's going on.
Well, and it's very hard to provide the detail without
Yeah, I got it. Okay, fair enough.
But if you wish, we can have that conversation.
Yep. For right now, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, Allison, can I ask that we bring that, the schedule that Glenn was talking about, that's 2016 to 20, can we bring that at least another 4 years back?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council approves the job descriptions of deputy clerk as presented, and furthermore, the council instructs staff to proceed with filling the positions of deputy clerk and machine operator contract position, and furthermore, that that the current machine operator contract position be made a full-time permanent position, replacing the foreman. All in favor? Carried. And I'm going to read the other resolution that we put off. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council approved the job description for the proposed planning and development technician and approved staff proceeding to fill the position. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Performance concepts delivery review.
So this is the report that was prepared by Performance Concepts. It does require approval by council, and it will need to be posted on our website to be in compliance with the funding that we received.
Okay, and this was the one that we had the consultants do an overview of it in the last meeting. Staff has put an extraordinary amount of work into that, so thank you for spending time on that and getting an understanding of the report. I think there's a lot of good points there that staff will be working with and bringing forward to council, looking for approval either to not proceed on a recommendation or to proceed and how we will do it and if there's cost involved in it. So this report, as well as the LAG report, I see it being very beneficial as we do our strategic plan in the next short period. So I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council adopts the Township Service Delivery Review final report prepared by Performance Concepts Consulting as a guiding document in defining key strategies for greater efficiency and effectiveness. Is there any questions of council? Councillor McPherson.
I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much today, but first thing is, are we going to get them to correct the first few pages where they refer to Madawaska fire halls? Who let that? Somebody let that slip by. It's the township is the township of Greater Madawaska, and they're inaccurately referring to our area as Madawaska, and it's not Madawaska, it's Greater Madawaska. So before this gets posted, it needs to be fixed. They've got that in there about, I don't know how many times. I quit counting. But when they do the first section where they talk about sharing of fire services, they start off by referencing Township of Greater Madawaska, but then the rest of the report, it's all Madawaska fire halls, which is inaccurate. So if we could get that fixed before it gets posted, I think that would be, I think it's necessary. I think it would reflect bad on us if we didn't get it corrected and people read this. So that's the first comment. Hopefully nobody has any issues with that.
No.
No.
Yeah, like even on page 4, Madawaska Hall number 1, just outside the border of Madawaska. Well, that's incorrect. It's inaccurate and it's sloppy. It doesn't look professional at all. If I did stuff like that in my job, I'd get my knuckle wrapped. This report is so long, it's hard to find where I put comments in. So I'm just going to do a quick scan here, but I think for the most part, I can comment on what I want. So there's quite a number of recommendations in here, and most of them are quite good. Some of them are, in my opinion, I don't want to say questionable. I just get concerned, and I look at this as a resident of the township of Greater Madawaska. And when it comes to the section of the report and the recommendations associated with economic development, so section 4.3, where it talks about fostering growth, this report looks like it was written for Calabogie, for the municipality of Calabogie. It made me cringe when I read it, because I agree, as Councillor Frost, who is represents Ward 2, he made the comment that we need to be planning, we need to be thinking about the expansion of Highway 417 and the potential for growth. But having said that, I didn't think that the purpose of this study, this commission, was to just look at Calabogie. And once they got away from the fire halls, that's what I see in the report. Is I see a report that's about Calabogie. There's nothing in there about Ward 2 or Ward 3,
Well,
or at least that I could see. So I'm just a little concerned that in planning for the future is Calabogie. And I realize that it does state in here that this is the first steps, but the future is Calabogie, and there's no future for Wards 2 and 3.
I don't know.
That's the observation.
Okay, I don't know if I can fully agree with you though, because they did state that the first area of growth would be the east side, so Calabogie of the township. And it did, when it recommended us having an economic development person, they said that they'd have to approach the township differently. One, on how you approach the Calabogie area, Ward 1, and then you'd have to take a different view on how you're doing economic development in the other areas. So I think they were very conscious of that, but a lot of the immediate planning needs are in Ward 1, because that's the area that they see the immediate growth will be coming to, which benefits the whole of the township.
Right, but recommendation 13, a Calabogie Tourism Marketing Association.
Well, and that's where they went into, Glenn, about that, and specifically that the economic development would have to separate the township and into two parts, so that look at the one where you got the immediate growth, and perhaps start another Calabogie association. And then when you look at the other part of the township, we have to do something different.
And I realize
report was sent out. We're getting very close to the deadline. Unfortunately, this report has been out with council looking for comments before we went to the final print of it, and I presume we didn't get these comments. Now we can take all your comments, like I don't think the council meeting is the right spot for it. If you want to forward those on to Allison, and Allison, is there time to get this changed and still meet our deadline to get our funding?
Yes, we have until the end of March. So if I can get those comments, then I can work with the consultants to get the changes implemented.
Okay, so should we leave this resolution and bring it back to a future council meeting?
If you can defer it, then we can.
Okay, so if there are any comments, and Glenn's comments of, the correction of Madawaska is very valid, and that's certainly should be corrected. And if there's other things, now, I know when I went through the report, I don't agree with all the recommendations either, but we're going to have another opportunity to look at those recommendations and decide whether we want to go with them or not. But that's what the consultant gave us. And it was the same through the LAG. We had a LAG meeting on last Friday, and there was a bunch of recommendations that there wasn't any of the 7 municipalities were in agreement with going forward, but they're there. That's what the consultant felt. So it's kind of their report, I guess, honed as much as we can to our municipality. So can I ask that if anyone has further changes they'd like to see in the report, that's get forward to Allison in the near future. She'll go back to the consultants and then we'll try to get a final for our next council meeting. Or Councillor Perry.
I think we should put a target date on that so that Allison's not swamped at the last minute. So if people have comments, put a target date to Allison by a certain date, and that way it just allows her to plan her own time.
You want to do that?
Yes, I'll send a follow-up email.
Okay, that'd be great. So I'll defer that for
Right.
now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my apologies for not providing feedback with the original distribution of this.
Okay, no problem. So we'll get that, and fortunately, we have enough time to get it all fixed up. Item 10, logo.
So I can speak with that. So the treasurer and I had a starting meeting regarding our website, the launch of that, or the redesign of our website. And during that meeting, they asked how we felt about our logo, to which we responded why. They had some concerns with it. It's not very flexible with its current structure. And I know that staff have had challenges in the past, even when trying to order flags that are not horizontal. So they did provide a quote to reduce our logo within the discussion portion of the document. I am bringing this forward because changing the logo of the township, I would like to council on board with that before I just bring it forward for approval. And so if is in favor of this, there's obviously a cost associated with that. So this is to get a feeling as to if you'd like me to proceed with this or not.
Where would this money come from?
So as of right now, and maybe I'll let the treasurer speak to that.
Okay.
Currently the budget, the operating budget includes website annual maintenance cost of $5,000. So there's some availability there, as the website is projected, I believe, to be live as of August 31st. And I believe there is also it's either 60 or 90 day free maintenance or whatnot. So the charges are really, we're looking at 2022 before we require those funds. Also, we had recently, when we awarded the website, we had stated that it was within the 30,000. The 30,000 included the full taxation. When you remove the taxes that we actually pay, there's a savings there of $3,000, which allows us to move forward with this project of redoing the logo.
Okay, so I'll open it up to council. Councillor McPherson.
I don't know. We may have to do a poll to see how people feel about it, and then we might want to defer this for 2 years until I'm off council.
That's next year.
Well, I'm counting, it's 2021 and 2022, so.
I believe Councillor Frost has a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Frost.
Yes, this is the 4th change in township logos that I've seen in my terms. I don't know that it's necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I also see we're going to have up to 3 revisions here, just reading and for the discussion. So it's not like it's just going to come out and it's a done deal. We'll have time to go over this, not necessarily the next meeting and then maybe the meeting after that even. Is that correct, Allison?
Yeah, so essentially if we say proceed, then The options would obviously come back to council for input, and then we would work, staff would work with the consultants to finalize it. But as the options come forward, yes, they would come to council for input and approval.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
the options would come to council for approval, but I think what we're voting on here is whether we proceed and spend the money.
I don't have a problem with that if, like Renee says, we have that extra slush fund out of the 30 grand. And it's something that these people who are obviously the experts in the field that we should, if we should be rebranding it to accommodate the website, then let's have a look at it.
Councillor Perrier.
I agree with Councillor Ridgehoff. If we're gonna make a change, let's do it all the way, and it's a perfect time to do it. That's it.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff, that council instructs staff to proceed with developing a new township logo. All those in favor? Carried. And against? And one abstainer. So that motion is carried. And Ontario Winter Games, an information item,
Yes.
and minutes approval. We do that before close?
Yes.
Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved, the following minutes are approved by council. January 15th, 2021 special council meeting, January 21st, 2021 regular council meeting, January 28th, 2021 special council meeting. All in favor? Carried. And moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff, the council meeting of February 16th, 2021 at 4:27. Enter into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act regarding identifiable individual goals and staff. All in favor? Carried.